Ricky Flex, I meant to ask you this last question about Dune. We'll get to Oscars, but is this Denny's best movie of his career?
Almost all his movies are A's, like we were saying. This is up there, man. This is. I think this will last the test of time, and it could be his best work.
I'm going to say this is his best movie. This is an ambitious filmmaker, and this is the most ambitious movie that he's made, and he executed it. He pulled it off. He slayed a dragon. Like Doom Part One, he didn't really slay the dragon. He knew what he was building up towards, and to talk about the passion that he has towards Dune, I think this is his best movie he's ever made, and
Yeah,
it's largest scale, largest scope. Creates his own vision. He's not going into. He talked about Blade Runner. He's not going into the Blade Runner world and making that and trying to add to something. He is saying, "This is mine, right? And I'm going to execute it the way I see it." And the directorial decisions, right, in Dune Part Two, is like blockbuster filmmaking we haven't seen maybe ever.
yeah. I agree with you about the Blade Runner take. I would take this over Blade Runner 2049, even though I love that movie. We obviously think it's better than Dune. Enemy, Incendies I haven't seen, but let's just assume with everyone, word of mouth. Then it's like Prisoners. It's kind of psychological thriller element. I'll say this is better than Prisoners, even though Prisoners is one of my favorite movies of all
Also,
time.
great performances in Prisoners.
Great performances. And then you have Sicario, which I think is unbelievable, but it is now maybe overrated. I'll say that. I think it's getting to the point where it's getting overrated now.
I will say, what I like about Sicario is something similar to Dune Part Two. It's where is morality? Like how do you gauge morality, right? And like, what are you willing to do to execute your goal? I think there's like some like themes that are kind of similar, weirdly enough, in
Yeah.
Sicario as there are in Dune Part Two. But Sicario, it's kind of mid tier for me, but like it's to me, it's like kind of like what day of the week it is that I decide what's my favorite Denis Villeneuve movie. Like usually between Prisoners, Arrival, and I think Doom Part Two is in the conversation now.
Arrival is the one I'm like, that movie was crazy. And that's like that movie coming out of that movie theater, I still am buzzing from that. I'll never forget that like chilling walking out moment.
Yeah, the mind blowing ending of that movie, but like it's like an alien invasion movie that's not your typical alien invasion movie. This is like what Denis Villeneuve does. He's like, okay, like this traditional type of like movie that you see, and like he kind of flips the archetype of it. He just says like, I'm going to do this differently. I'm going to have the aliens look like this. The aliens aren't going to actually attack people, right? But it's just the mere threat of the alien, right? And the way they communicate, that's the real like point of the movie. Like to me, it's he just takes something and he's like, I'm going to make this a little bit different. He'll never follow something as like you've seen it before. That's why he's such a visionary.
Yeah, Doom Part 2, best Denny V movie so far.
Stamped. Okay, you said Check Up Friday. Sorry, I had to
Sure.
ask that question, Ricky Flicks. I had to. Check Up Friday, and then what kind of movies we got
Oscars,
coming?
Oscars,
Oh, we have
Oscars,
Oscars. Shit. Oh my God, they're here.
Oscars, Sunday.
Dune is hijacking Oscar conversation in award season right now.
It
Maybe
is.
it's totally hijacked. Dude, I have my blinders on.
But
We
it is kind of good that it is, though, because it seems like everything's kind of set in stone. We'll talk about it on Friday's episode, but it seems like
so
everything's kind of set.
predictions we're gonna make, right? We're gonna do predictions, and you'll have some betting odds potentially for the listeners. Yes, yes, I'll
Oh, as a
answer for.
question.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes. There will be betting odds. Betting odds, some sleepers, dark horses, the works.
That'll be a good clip for the YouTube. And if you have on YouTube right now, we have our trailer reactions to Horizon American Saga, directed by Kevin Costner. Why don't you guys check that out? Because it's a doozy of a conversation, and whether Costner can land the plane, all right, for this two-part epic that's going to be coming out later this year. One of Dr. Ro's most anticipated movies of the year. Make sure you guys are subscribed at capital T, capital D, capital I, then lowercase podcast. Make sure that you are following us on social media at the Drive-In Pod on Twitter and Instagram. Check out the graphics from Ricky Flicks and follow the pod wherever you're listening right now. Hit the subscribe button, leave us a 5-star review, and if you give a great review, we'll read it out in the podcast. So that's going to do it for episode 330 of the Drive-In Podcast. Until next time, we will smell ya.